So this is my wife's 2021 Ryker Rally 900, and she loves this thing. She has a lot of fun with it. But one of the things that she's been wanting for a little while is a little bit better wind protection. We've been taking longer and longer rides, and with getting on highways and things like that, just that wind blast on the chest is a little bit much. So we were seeing about what could we do to minimize that without going on with like trying to fit a full touring windshield on this thing. So she found this windscreen. It's actually a universal windscreen by Puig. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is model 5022F. It is a universal dark smoke windscreen. And I gotta say, and I really think this has to do with Apple. When Apple started making really nice packaging for all of their products, I feel like everybody stepped up the packaging for their products. So this is how it arrived, and it arrived in this really nice black box. So let's go ahead and get this thing open. I'm gonna try to do this one-handed. I already have the warranty seal broken on it. Get this guy open. And we'll fold this back. Doing things one-handed is always fun. All right, so we've got some, packaging in here. We'll just get that out of the way. And here is our dark smoke Puig screen. We'll get that out of the plastic there in a second. And also in the box, we've got our mounting hardware. So it looks like that's empty. All right, so what does our mounting hardware look like? Because this is a universal windscreen, I believe it just mounts to the handlebars. So let's go ahead and get that unwrapped, and we'll take a look at what we got. So there we've got what comes in the kit. We have our dark smoke windshield, and as you can see, that is a pretty dark windscreen. Hopefully that does not block too much of the view on cloudy days. Whoops. Let's try to keep that upright. We've also got some, looks like adapters for different diameter handlebars. And then we have our actual mounting hardware, the rods with a clamp that goes onto a handlebar. And then there's a little socket mount or a little ball mount on here that fits right into a socket on each side of our windscreen. So it looks like, I wish that would stay upright. We'll just lay that down. It wants to fall backwards. So here we've got the hardware. Here we've got a little bit of paperwork from Puig about the installation instructions, and then there's like some little end caps here. Looks like that's probably going to be to close up some screw holes for appearance sake. Taking a look at the instructions, you don't really get much here. You get sort of an exploded diagram of all of the parts, and if we flip this over, you can see it kind of gives you an orientation of things, how the actual brackets should mount. Looks like they sort of turn outwards on either side, and then what it's supposed to look like once the windshield is installed. But really there's no step-by-step instructions or anything like that. I assume that they think that this is simple enough, you should be able to figure it out. So even though the mounts on the actual windscreen are already installed, it looks like we are going to have to take them off because you don't want to just ram home that ball mount. It's you'll probably break something if you tried. So what we've got here is basically two screws that mount to a plate on the front side here, and then once those two screws are off, it looks like this whole back side of the mount comes out, and then you've got some hex Allen type keys here that go into captured. Let me spin this around a bit, see if I can get down in there. So we've got some captured nuts to hold the whole thing together. So let me go ahead and grab here off my handy workbench. Let's see if we can do this again one-handed. I've got a piece of cloth under here now to keep from scratching the shield since it wants to keep falling over on me. So let's just go ahead and take one screw out. And we'll take the other screw out. Again, trying to do this one-handed. There we go. All right. So there you can see what that's going to look like. So there we've got like the outer skin that goes on the outside, and then this goes on the inside with just a couple of screws here and here holding it in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my hex key set, which is, oh, it's over across the room. Let me grab that quick. All right, so I don't think I'm going to be able to do this one-handed, but I just wanted to show. So this is actually a 4mm Allen key, so that's what you're going to need to get this, get these two guys apart. You may not need to take it all the way apart. I may be able just to open it up a little bit, but we'll see here in a second. All right, so actually, yeah, so you can kind of see there. Let me see if I can manipulate this. I just loosened those two Allen keys a little bit to kind of open that gap up. So, now if I go ahead and place the arm in here, you can see how that does fit right in there. So I don't have to take it all the way apart. You just got to loosen those guys up. So now what I'm going to do is tighten those back up again to kind of capture the ball in the socket there. And then we'll go ahead and reattach the actual rear bracket to the front bracket using those two screws that I have set here. All right, so there's the first one attached. I don't have it cranked down super hard at this time because, I want to be able to move that bar around and adjust it, once we get the handlebar situation figured out. So I'm going to go ahead now and put the one on the other side, and then we'll see how the whole thing mounts to the actual handlebars on the bike. So this is basically what you should look like once you've got these things mounted. So, I've got the rod kind of captured, or the ball captured in the socket here. Coming back to our handlebar brackets on both sides. So you kind of look like that when the windshield is assembled. And I just wanted to take a closer look. Let me see if I can get a good look here. So these are the two sets of spacers that you have. So it looks like, depending on the diameter of the handlebar, you're going to need to use one of these spacers. Let me grab a caliper real quick and take a look at, what size handlebar we're dealing with. All right, so here we've got our handy dandy Pittsburgh brand Harbor Freight special caliper. It's good enough for the type of work I do. And let's get a quick measurement on this guy. Let me see if I can angle the camera so we can all see this together. So looks like 0.89 inches. What is that in metric? Let's take a look here. So about 22.65. Let's take a look at a different point of bar. 22.5. So, all right. So that's what we know we need. I shouldn't have moved that. Let's get that back to 22.5 or so. There we go. So we'll get that close. And then let's take a look at our options here. So the instructions do say that one of them is for a 22mm bar and one would be for a 26mm bar. So it looks like we'll probably need the skinnier set. So if we're going to convert this to imperial units, let me spin this over. We're probably looking at a 7/8 inch bar using the thicker spacers and a 1 inch bar using the skinnier spacers. Those are the two most common handlebar sizes that you're going to see on bikes pretty much from any manufacturer. So it looks like the thicker ones are what we're going to need to put on the actual bike, and they're going to fit right inside those mounts that we have there. So let's go ahead and get this sort of mocked up. There's a lot of adjustability on this thing. I mean, we can adjust, first at the ball. We can adjust, when this is loosened up here, this whole thing will pivot. And then obviously it's going to be able to rotate forward and back. So let's see what that's going to look like on the bike. So before we do that, actually, it looks like these spacers have these little pins. So they're actually captured inside of the bracket. And if I move, I don't know if I can really see here. Let's see if I can get some light in there. You can sort of see there's those pinholes, and it's going to be on the top side and the bottom side of that bracket. So that's going to have to be opened up in order to fit these. It's not just going to be like a slip fit from the side. So this is actually a 6mm hex key. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off so that I can put those inside there when I mount it on the bike. Again, I'm not going to be able to record that because I only got one hand to do that with. So we'll see, once I have it on the bike, what this looks like. All right, so I just wanted to take a look at what I have this sort of mocked up right now. I'm not sure about its final position, but I just want to talk about some things you need to be aware of with the Ryker. So first off, there's not a lot of handlebar space on these things on either side. And my wife already has this phone mount here, and she really likes where that's at. So, yeah, I'm not really I don't want to move that if I don't have to. Plus, the bars have this sort of funky bend in it that even if you wanted to put a phone mount somewhere else, it's not going to sit real well. Also, these things have these plastic cable ties. There's a hole drilled in the handlebar, and that snaps into it to hold onto the cable. I have that temporarily disconnected to try to, try a couple of things here. So that's what you're going to have to deal with there. If you tried to move these bars inward, depending on how far you had this pulled back, depending on the angle of the windshield, your fuel tank is right here. So if you had this bar coming back, cocked at an angle, it could come over this far and actually impede with when you're trying to put gas in the tank. So you got to keep that in mind. The final thing that you really have to, not the final, but two other things that you have to keep in mind is one, the control unit here, you actually have to think a couple things about this. One is these buttons actually control different features about what you're seeing, and especially with the Ryker Rally, to be able to switch between your different riding modes, including rally mode, you need to be able to access these buttons. So, again, can't really have that bar crossing in front. It's a fairly deep unit, so right now, the windscreen is actually hitting the back of that. It comes to sort of a point there. And once you have this configured, you also have to be able to open your frunk. So right now it is just barely clearing, where I just sort of have this mocked up. I don't really like how it's sitting at the moment, but that's just all the things you got to be considering is frunk, control, and visibility, and the depth of it, the shape of the bars, the fact that your gas tank is right here. So with a Ryker in particular, there's a lot going on here that I'm just trying to, try a couple things out and see exactly what the best kind of position is for this thing. Because right now I've got this thing almost vertical, and I'm really not digging how that looks. So I may have to lift it up a little bit and sort of tilt it back like I'm tilting the phone right now in order to try to clear all the things that we need to clear. So I think that's probably where I'm going to keep it for now. I'll let my wife ride it and give me some feedback onto what she thinks of it. So I ended up having to, basically have two options. Either you place the windscreen almost vertical so that it can go all the way down and leave room for the frunk to open, or you can lift it up like I did and tilt it back, which I think is more kind of what you want to deflect the wind. You don't want to have just a hard stop on the wind as it comes in, but you want it to flow up and around. So I ended up lifting it. You can kind of see there, lifting it up just a little bit. It does have room for our frunk to open, just barely clearing that. Also, I tried to keep it off of the back of the control unit. You can't really see it down there, but there's maybe, I don't know, maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch of space between there. And you can kind of see how, that's pretty much how I had it previously. I tinkered with different areas of placing those things, but I think that's where they're going to stay for now. They're kind of out of the way of the gas tank. I don't have to move her phone mount, so I think that's where we're going to keep things for now. If I end up moving it, I'll make some kind of update, but I think that should give us a pretty good spot for the time being. So anyway, not the best video because I'm trying to work with one hand for a lot of that stuff. But hopefully that gives you guys an idea on what that process is going to be like, getting it installed, some of the things you might run into, and some of the things you're going to have to think about with the different positioning. So yeah, anyway, we'll just go ahead and wrap this up here. Thanks for watching.